What would you do if the darkness wasn't empty? Before we dive into this chilling tale, take a moment to tickle that like button. It really helps us bring you more terrifying stories from the shadows. Let's begin the story. The Goatman of the Appalachians. Sage had always felt at home in the wilderness. The sprawling Appalachian Mountains were his cathedral, his sanctuary, his escape from the world. Growing up in West Virginia, he had spent his childhood wandering the woods, listening to the whispers of the trees, learning the lay of the land. Now in his late 20s, his love for the backcountry had never faded. He wasn't afraid of the wild. That's why, when he packed his bag for a 2-day solo hike, he felt no fear, only excitement. The crisp mountain air, the smell of damp earth, the weight of his pack against his back. It was all part of the adventure. He parked his truck at the edge of an old logging road and started walking. The first few miles were familiar terrain. Ancient oak trees towered above him, their branches forming a cathedral of green. A creek bubbled in the distance, the sound blending with the occasional chirp of a woodpecker. He moved steadily, his boots crunching against fallen leaves, his breath steady. But as the day wore on, the forest changed. The trees became older, gnarled, their branches twisted in unnatural ways. The undergrowth thickened, and the silence grew heavy. No birds, no rustling of squirrels, just silence. And then he saw it. A black bear, a big one. Not more than 50 yards ahead, standing in the middle of the trail, sniffing the air. Sage froze, his pulse hammering. He knew the rules. Stay calm, don't run, don't make sudden movements. The bear's eyes locked onto his. It wasn't afraid. If anything, it looked angry. "Shit," Sage whispered under his breath. Slowly, he reached for the bear spray on his belt. He had encountered bears before, but this one was different. It let out a low, guttural growl. A warning. Sage knew he had seconds before it charged. His fingers found the safety on the spray, his other hand slowly reaching for his hiking pole. The bear took a step forward, then another. Then, with a deep, rumbling snarl, it lunged. Sage barely had time to react. He lifted the bear spray and unleashed the burning mist into the bear's face. The bear roared, shaking its head violently, eyes watering from the sting. It stumbled back, growling furiously, but it didn't charge again. Instead, it turned and disappeared into the trees, leaving Sage standing there, his body trembling, his heart pounding. Sage didn't stop walking until he was miles away. By late afternoon, he had found his campsite, a small clearing tucked between two perfectly spaced trees. It felt like a natural place to set up his hammock. But as he scanned the area, he noticed something strange. The ground was uneven, dotted with small hills, almost like burial mounds. Nearby, a ring of moss-covered stones formed a perfect circle, half buried by time. Something about the place felt old. Older than the trees. Older than the mountains. But he was exhausted, and the spot was perfect. He decided to stay. By nightfall, his fire crackled in the cool evening air. He cooked his dinner, a simple meal of dehydrated rice and beans, and watched the flames dance. Just as his eyes began to droop, he saw something. Far up on the mountain ridge, through the trees, tiny orbs of light flickered. White, blue, red. They weren't stars, they weren't campfires. They floated. Sage sat up, his pulse quickening. What the hell was that? And then behind him, something growled. It was close, 30 yards, maybe less. The sound was low, guttural, like something massive trying to hold back a snarl. Sage's breath hitched. He grabbed a burning stick from the fire and thrust it into the darkness. Nothing. The fire cast long, shifting shadows, but he saw nothing. Then the growl came again, further back this time, like whatever it was didn't like the fire. His body tensed. He fed more wood into the flames, building the fire higher and higher until it roared, illuminating the entire clearing. And for a while, there was silence. Sage sat there, clutching his pocket knife, staring into the trees. Then, the footsteps started. Slow, deliberate, crunching through the undergrowth. Getting closer, 20 yards, 15, 10. Sage gripped his knife so tight his knuckles turned white. Then, it stepped into the firelight. It was not a bear. At first, its head looked like a goat's, with twisted horns and slitted eyes. But then Sage saw its teeth, long, jagged canines that protruded from a mouth far too wide. Its body was human-like, broad and muscular, but its legs were bent backward like a goat's, covered in matted fur. It stood at the edge of the firelight, staring, watching, testing. Then it took a step closer. Sage felt the air leave his lungs. It was going to jump the fire. Sage did the only thing he could think of. He grabbed his cross necklace. It wasn't for religion, just something he wore, a gift from his mother. He yanked it from his neck and held it up. The creature recoiled. It let out a high-pitched hiss, its entire body shuddering, and then, before Sage's eyes, it changed. The horns melted away. The human chest shrank. The fur covered its entire body. And standing there where the Goatman had been was a bear, the same black bear from earlier. It stared at him one last time, then turned and vanished into the trees, leaving Sage alone. Sage didn't sleep. He kept the fire burning until dawn. Then, as soon as the first light broke over the mountains, he packed his gear and left. He didn't look back. By the time he reached his truck, the forest had returned to normal, birds chirping, leaves rustling, as if nothing had ever happened. But Sage knew better. Something ancient lived in those woods, something older than the trees, older than the mountains. And he had come face to face with it, the Goatman of the Appalachians, If this story sent a shiver down your spine, let us know in the comments. Would you have made it through the night? Or would the darkness have swallowed you whole? Don't forget to tickle that like button if you enjoyed the journey, and subscribe for more eerie tales from the unknown. Until next time, stay curious, stay cautious, and if you're ever alone in the woods, listen carefully, because something might be listening to you.